And I thank my good friend, the chairman of our wonderful committee, Mr. Royce of California. Mr. Speaker, I cannot emphasize enough just how important it is that the United States and Israel finalize a new, long-term and robust memorandum of understanding on U.S. military assistance to Israel. And an overwhelming majority of our colleagues in Congress agree. This bipartisan resolution, Mr. Speaker, House Resolution 729, that I introduced alongside my friend and South Florida colleague, the ranking member of our Middle East and North Africa subcommittee, Mr. Deutsch, has over 275 co-sponsors. This is the kind of support we don't see very often, but it underscores the level of commitment and support that the United States Congress has for our closest friend and ally, the Democratic Jewish State of Israel. It is absolutely imperative, Mr. Speaker, that the administration finalize and sign a new memorandum of understanding with Israel as soon as possible, because the threats to Israel aren't going away anytime soon. Just last week, it was reported that the Israeli military had assessed that it expects ISIS attacks on its southern border within 6 months. This is extremely alarming, and if true, all the more reason to finalize a new MOU with Israel. We know that Egypt has been fighting ISIS in the Sinai for quite some time now, but if ISIS is able to continue moving north toward Israel, it would leave Israel vulnerable on almost every border except the border that it shares with Jordan, where the king and the Jordanians have been so important in the fight against ISIS. As if the thought of ISIS surrounding the Jewish state was not daunting enough, as a result of the Iran nuclear deal, the threats to Israel have only increased in magnitude and severity. Iran has shown that it has no intention of slowing down its ballistic missile program, with which it uses to repeatedly threaten Israel. We've recently learned that the nuclear deal is full of secret concessions and exemptions to Iran, which allow Iran to exceed limits that are set forth in the deal. And these are just the ones that we know of now. There are likely a lot more. And we just heard testimony last week that the administration may have sent Iran up to $33.6 billion in cash payments, including $1.7 billion in ransom payments. Administration officials have said that there's no way of tracing the money or of telling if that money will be used to support terror. But Iran has said that it needed hard currency, so we sent it, because that's a great idea, to give a state sponsor of terror an infusion of billions of dollars in cold, hard cash. That makes sense. So now Iran has as much as $33.6 billion in cash, and no doubt it will be used to support terror. There's no doubt. It will be used to shore up Hezbollah's weapon supply. It will be used to increase the missile stockpile of Hezbollah. It will be used for many nefarious activities. And with Iran's stated intention to wipe Israel off the map, there should be no time wasted in ensuring that the Jewish state has the capability, has the capacity to defend itself and her people from every threat. With all of the concessions that the administration has made to Iran, we need to make sure that this memorandum of understanding goes above and beyond. As my former chief of staff of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Dr. Yelem Poblet, wrote in a piece for Gatestone Institute a couple of months ago, and I quote, "The terms of any U.S.-Israel agreement must withstand comparison to the concessions offered Iran in the JCPOA and show unequivocally that Israel, a trusted ally, a major strategic partner, fared better in negotiations than an unconstrained enemy," end quote. This is why the administration must conclude this MOU with Israel, and it would send a strong message to the people of Israel that the United States continues to stand by them and support them. But, Mr. Speaker, it would send an even stronger message to those that seek to harm Israel by signifying that the United States is committing to fully to fully support Israel's defense and security needs. So I urge my colleagues to support this measure. I call upon the administration to put the politicking aside, get this agreement done, secure Israel's safety and our own interest. And we're going to hear a lot of support for this resolution, and we've heard about the many threats facing Israel. And I spoke about the nuclear threat and how it's placed Israel in greater jeopardy. But what we don't hear too much about, Mr. Speaker, is how the nuclear deal has threatened Israel's qualitative military edge, the QME, that by U.S. law we are supposed to ensure. When the administration signed that weak and dangerous Iran deal with Iran, it had to sell it to the international community. How did it do that? Well, in order to sell the deal to our allies in the Gulf, the administration had to promise them that we would provide them with advanced weapons sales. The administration likes to say that the Iran deal will make the world safer. But if that is true, then why are we going to increase so much the militarization of the Gulf countries? Mr. Speaker, I expect that Gulf states' sales of military jets to Bahrain, to Qatar, to Kuwait will be approved by the administration as early as this month. We're about to open the spigot of cash that Iran can then use to build up its ballistic missiles, its military, its terror activities. So we need to make sure that Israel understands that we are there to support her. Because it makes no sense, Mr. Speaker, that we should be concentrating on stopping Iran, not assisting the regime, to further carrying out its nefarious activities, and certainly not helping to build up its conventional nuclear arms race in the region. Not to mention that by doing this, we are undermining the distinct advantage that Israel has militarily over its neighbors. And even though Israel and our other partners in the region may have better relations now than ever before, and that is true, and that's wonderful, because they have in Iran a mutual enemy. That's why. They understand that it is their greatest threat, and history tells it is better to be safe than sorry. So that is another important reason why we need to conclude this MOU with the Jewish state and ensure its qualitative military edge. We have an ever-increasingly dangerous Iran, a heavily militarized Middle East with advanced weaponry, ISIS becoming an even greater threat to Israel, Hezbollah on the Golan Heights and in Lebanon, and of course Hamas in Gaza. That's a daunting task of even the largest country, Mr. Speaker, let alone the tiny Jewish state. So I urge my colleagues to support this resolution. I urge them to call upon the administration to uphold long-standing U.S. policy toward our closest friend and ally, the democratic Jewish state of Israel. And I thank the gentleman for the time.